is made for me and you. Merhaba, ben KAYLA SIERRA, YouTube kanalım hoş geldiniz. And if you don't speak Turkish, that means, hi, I'm KAYLA SIERRA, welcome to my YouTube channel. You guys, it has been over 2 months since I've uploaded a video, and there's so much I have to say, so many things that I want to tell you guys. And first off, I just wanted to say that with that last video when I talked about the different thriller books that I was reading, I fully intended to post my next video, which is actually talking about Immortal Consequences right after that. But ultimately, it just didn't feel right to me, given the circumstances of just around the time when I filmed it and when I was going to post it. The reason I haven't posted in a long time is my grandfather unfortunately passed away December 3rd, and it really it hit my family hard, as a death of a family member would. None of us were expecting it, and it took a long time to feel like myself again. My grandfather was a person who was just really bright. He loved people, he loved the Lord, and no matter where he went, this man did not know a stranger whatsoever. And so losing him so suddenly after just spending Thanksgiving with him and seeing him that Sunday prior to when he passed away, it was really hard. It was been hard on my family, and so all of my content and everything, I just completely stepped away. None of it felt genuine anymore. None of it felt like myself, and I didn't know where I wanted to go with that. I spent a lot of time since he passed away just being really angry and not understanding like where God was kind of taking me with my content as well. With all that being said, I know it's kind of heavy. I am so just blessed and honored to have had the grandfather that I did. So during the past 2 months, I have been diving deep into things that I've kind of left in the back burner. I think I mentioned it in earlier videos where I was learning Turkish, hence the Turkish in the beginning of the video. You guys, I am really wanting to bring the language more into my everyday life, and I'm really proud of the progress I have been making with learning Turkish. I've been focusing a lot on my novel too, which y'all, I don't know if only writers can understand this, but it's something about when you just like sit with your book, and like I just had like all the different papers of like the chapters and the outlines and stuff written up, and it just felt like everything was just starting to flow out of me. Like the way these different ideas and like scenes were coming to me, I was like, okay, God, okay. And it felt so good to like reconnect with my story, but then also, of course, going through a time where I was so just like not wanting to be in this world, to be in a different world that felt really fresh to me was just what I needed, honestly. And I'm super excited with the progress that I have been making with my novel. And lastly, I've been working really hard to rebrand this YouTube channel, hence the new intro, which I absolutely adore. I hope you guys love it too. And I did change my banner, but I'm kind of feeling like I want it to match my intro a little bit more, so that probably will be changed too. Overall, I'm just glad that I did take the time, especially just with January, to refigure out myself and know that I can take it a bit slower and just find out who I am. So you guys can expect to see a whole new side of myself in this channel as I continue this year. I have a lot of videos ready to be recorded, so I'm so excited to have you guys on that journey with me. On to today's topic. It's no longer January, and that's okay. I'm still going to talk to you guys about all of my January reads. For 2026, my reading goal is 100 books. January, I read a total of 8 books, so I'll be going through all of them today and telling you a little bit about them and whether I would read them again or not. So I know y'all are tired of me talking. Let's get into this video. If you guys remember from my last video, a lot of the books that I had were books I checked out from the library. I am fully supporting going to the library nowadays. Like when I say these people see me just about every week, it's a routine now. All the books that I don't have physically with me are books that I have from the library, but I will be including photos of them on the screen while I'm talking about them. Starting us out, my first read of the year was Mirror Girls. I really enjoyed this, you guys. It was so fascinating, and I loved the history and the story behind Magnolia and Charlie. This book takes place during the civil rights movement in Georgia, and it's about twin sisters Magnolia and Charlie who were separated at birth. One sister went with the maternal grandmother and the other sister went with the paternal grandmother. And here's the kicker, y'all. So their parents were an interracial couple, and they were actually killed right, like I think it was like 3 days or so after the girls were born. because they were an interracial couple. And so the grandmother of the woman, who was a Black woman, she got the daughter who looked like the mother. And then the dad's mom, who was a white man, she tricked the grandmother into giving her the white looking daughter. So she was white passing, even though she was of course mixed race. So these two girls grew up not knowing about the other's existence, did not know that they had a sister whatsoever, didn't know where they came from, like, at all. And to be specific, Magnolia is the white passing sister and Charlie is the sister who has a bit more melanin in her skin. The sisters are reunited because Charlie comes back to Georgia with her grandmother because she is slowly dying and she wants to be able to die in her old home. And that's how, like, this whole story just, like, erupts. And not to get too, like, deep into it, but I loved the history behind it, and then also just calling into, like, all of, like, the racial things that was going on during that time and what both sisters were going through. And also, if you guys have seen the movie Sinners, kind of how they had, like, the history, like, and, like, almost like the ghost and everything kind of showing up at different points. That's kind of what this book gave me. And I actually read the book before I saw Sinners. So now I'm kind of putting, like, that connection in there. I was like, wow, like, they both did such a great job, first and foremost, of just, like, having that history and it being so rich and embedded in their stories. But what I also love about Mirror Girls is these two girls obviously have lived very different lives, because since this book is during the civil rights movement, obviously with Magnolia, she's white passing. All these people, all of her friends, everybody she knows has treated her like she's a white girl. She believes she's a white girl, does not know she has a drop of melanin in her skin, you guys. So finding that out for her and her journey with, like, really trying to, like, grapple with the fact that, like, okay, I've only ever known myself as this person, and now you're telling me I have a whole different culture and history behind myself. Like, I think also for her, just knowing that, like, she's treated people who look like her own people a certain way because she was raised to think that that was right. So I really empathize with her, because finding out you have a completely different side of yourself whilst living in a world that is basically telling you that that side that you have that you never knew about is wrong, and that it's ugly, and that it has no place in that world is kind of messed up. It gives you a thing of, like, you finally see the world as it is. And so she is going through a lot. And then for Charlie, it's like, okay, I have a white sister. Which, that's not exactly how she says it, but for her, it's like, we're twin sisters. And when I say, like, the twin sisters, like, they look alike. The only difference between them is the color of their skin. So both of them just really trying to figure out, like, this new life and, like, the history behind, like, their parents killing and everything. I loved this book. I would definitely read it again. I'm super happy that I gave it a chance. And also, I love that the whole thing was just a love story between two sisters who didn't know about each other. And from the moment I feel like they found out that the other existed, it was kind of like, well, I take that back, because Charlie knew first and was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And sister almost left Georgia and was like, I'm about to go back to New York. Forget her. I'm not doing nothing, grandma, when the grandma died and told her. But she came around, which obviously, I mean, I feel like you would be a little standoffish. Like, what do you mean I have a twin sister who's white? Which, once again, that's not how she really said it. But to put the dramatics in there, Charlie wasn't having it at first. But the love story between them, and I call it a love story because they didn't know anything about each other. So they had to build a friendship, but then also a sisterhood during a time where it seemed like they weren't going to be allowed to do that. Like, technically they were both products of, like, a wrong thing, like a white man and a Black woman being together. And so I love that they just defied the people who were telling them, like, they couldn't have a relationship, like they couldn't be together. It was like, no, like, Magnolia and Charlie loved each other so much, despite all of the things and all of the people around them telling them that it was not supposed to be. My second read was 5 Feet Apart, and this is kind of maybe like a maybe. I've seen the movie before, and I've actually had this book for at least 2 to 3 years already. I've had this book for a hot second, probably longer than 2 to 3 years, and I'm just now getting around to reading it. I loved the movie, so I was like, okay, let's read the book, because I'm trying to get through all of the books that I currently own that I haven't read yet. So this one was definitely on that list to be read. And I liked it, but I think I enjoyed the movie a bit more. I was going through a lot of the parts of the book where I was like, okay, I was seeing the scene literally play out in my head since I've seen the movie, and it kind of disconnected me from the book a little bit, which was strange because that normally doesn't happen. I think it's because there aren't a lot of differences from the book than the movie. I might be wrong on that. It has been a really long time since I've seen the movie, so I could be wrong in that there aren't a lot of differences, but I will say I loved having Will's point of view. I just love a dual point of view, and even like multiple point of views. Like, I want to see what everyone's thought process is and what they're going through, because one person doesn't experience a thing or like a moment in time the same. Everybody kind of has their way of like, okay, like, yeah, this is what happened, but this is how I remember it, you know, or this is how it made me feel. So I really love reading not only Stella, but then also Will as they're going through this. My next read was Shoot the Sparrows, which that was my first book. I checked out from the library, and y'all, when I say I ate this book up, I loved it so much. So a little bit of backstory about this book. I heard about it from a good friend of mine who hasn't read the book yet, but he had heard it through like the grapevine and book talk and all those things, and recommended it to me to read it. So I actually started reading it through audiobooks, or I guess you could say I was listening to it through audiobooks on Spotify, and it was slowly but surely like killing me. I, for the life of me, couldn't connect with the book. I don't know what it is sometimes about audiobooks that it just doesn't do it for me. Sometimes I can get through it and I'll be fine, but this book, it was so hard for me to like keep track of like what was going on and who was doing what. I went to the library to check out a completely separate book, and I found it in like the new books area or whatever, and I said, praise God, because I knew if I did not find the physical copy, I probably wasn't going to get through the audiobook. And honestly, from the moment I started reading the physical copy of the book, I was locked in. That book was probably my favorite of the month. I don't know what it is about fantasy books, but I think it's becoming my favorite genre over romance. And I know that's so crazy to say, and we'll get into why that is coming up here soon, but fantasy books have just been like hitting the mark for me. I don't know if it's just because the romance aspect, you know, it's in there, but it's not so heavily focused on it. So I don't know. I mean, romance books, y'all losing a sister, which is so sad because I'm a romance girl for life, but fantasy, they're slowly but surely, they're coming up swinging. And what I will say is, while I enjoyed this book a lot, it was hard in the beginning, like those first couple chapters, which I feel like is kind of what happens in a lot of fantasy books. There's so much you need to know about the world. There's so much that us as readers need to find out about like whatever this journey is going on, because we're kind of finding out information as like the main character is, which can be very annoying. It can be very like daunting and almost kind of like, oh my gosh, like can we fast forward? Like, why is this taking so long to get to like the good parts? But once I hit like really like the middle of the story, once you get to like the meat of the story, you're kind of like, oh, that's why you took me through that history lesson, and like now I can appreciate the fact that like you took the time to really build this world and send me on this journey. Because now, without all that information, without all of those extra scenes and those experiences that the character is going through, I wouldn't have understood or even really been able to grasp what is now going on like with everybody, because it's a lot deeper than I know was even given in that first book. I know the second book is going to be a lot more information thrown at us, because I was left like, huh, at the end. Like I'm so upset the second book's not out. It's becoming that thing of like, when I start fantasy books, and I don't know why lately, every time I start a fantasy book, the second book's never out. I always have to wait, and it's like, why? But Shield of Sparrows was definitely a 5-star read for me. I recommend it so much, and I'm super excited to continue the series in April when the second book comes out. So this next book, I don't know how much explaining I need to do. It was kind of, I don't even know. I think I might just get into it. And so this is my 4th read of January, Forensics for Dummies. Where do I begin? I want to start off by saying I found this book in Barnes & Noble, actually. I was in the true crime section of the store and just looking through the books and everything, and I found it and I was like, oh, this seems interesting. Because if you remember, I am writing a thriller screenplay. So in that being said, there's a crime that takes place as a writer and someone who loves true crime, who watches TV shows about like cops and things like that, love them down, could not tell you what happens during the, you know, the forensics part of like those shows and those movies and that stuff. Couldn't tell you one thing about it. I know like the procedures of like cops or whatever, but as far as like evaluating like crime scenes and like autopsies and stuff like that, that's why the book's called Forensics for Dummies, because I have no idea what any of that entails. And so with me kind of wanting to get more into like writing my screenplay, I was like, okay, I can buy this book and, you know, start taking notes and things like that. So I did take a picture of it to make sure I remembered it and to have it kind of like in my TBR as a like, or not necessarily my TBR, but just in my to buy list, because I knew that eventually I was gonna need it. And that trip I took to the library, something to know about me: if I'm going to the library and I tell myself I'm just there to get one book, I'm never just there to get one book. I think in that trip, I was there to get one. I walked out with about 5. I did go through and read the whole book. I haven't taken any notes on it yet. I have to renew it one more time so that way I can start taking notes. But what I really want is to be able to write in my own book, you know, highlight different things, because taking notes, it's good and it helps me, of course, to like remember things. But I feel like to actually have my own copy, and if there's anything that kind of like, I don't want to write this, but like I want to be able to remember it, I need to be able to have my own way of like annotating and things like that. So I already told my sister, I was like, birthday, I don't know what, Forensic for Dummies, I want it. The next 2 books I'm going to put together because they are part of the same series. I read King of Sloth and King of Envy, and I believe I said it when I talked about the other 3 books and how the series just wasn't doing anything for me. I don't necessarily like the series whatsoever. The first 3 books were okay. By the time I got to King of Greed, I was really like, yeah, no, like I'm done. I think it was because I saw them and I was like, oh, this is my opportunity to read them without having spending money on them, obviously. But I feel better on like standing firm on not finishing the series. I thought maybe I had done it a little bit prematurely, like DNFing it, because I had heard different things about Sloth and Envy and how good they were, especially people were going rah-rah for Envy, and I just didn't get it. And if I'm being completely honest, I found Sloth kind of more interesting than Envy, honestly. I felt like the relationship between Xavier and Sloan was better than it was through, what is his name, Vic and Anya. No, I did not want them to be together. And not even, I didn't want them to be together. Their love was obsession. Old dude literally even says it in the book. Like, someone says whatever, I think it was Jordan, her fake fiance, whatever. It's a whole lot of. But he says like, oh, like, how long have you been in love with her? Like, are you in love with her or something like that? And dude was like, am I in love with her? Like, I know I've been obsessed with her. I know I wanted her and all this stuff. And I'm like, exactly. Like, my eyes twitching. Like, you don't love her. You're obsessed with the fact that you can't have her. So that's... I just don't get it. And reading those 2 books was just like... And I'm really not into smut anymore, which isn't a new development for me. I already don't read the scenes of books when they have them. But even more so, I feel like books when it's just like, this is romance, I feel like they lose sight of what romance really is. I don't think people are writing love anymore, like genuine love and like the process and how it goes. Because, you know, love is different for everybody. Everybody experiences love in totally different ways. It's not something that is one shape, one form, or anything like that. Love is so diverse. I think we're losing the magic. I haven't felt the magic of romance in so long. But if like 2022, 2023, Kayla had read these books, would have ate them up. Been like, these are the best things in the world. I love these. 2026, Kayla's like, not for me. So I feel pretty firm and good in my decision of not continuing the series. So with 2 disappointing reads back to back, I felt myself starting to hit a reading slump, and I was like, absolutely not. It's way too early for a reading slump. We're in the first month of the year. How are you gonna hit a reading slump and not want to read anything already? So I really had to dive deep into my bookshelves. I knew I was gonna need like a comfort read to get me kind of like going again. And hence this book. Please disregard how it looks. Her Unlikely Family. I've had this book since like middle school, probably maybe like 5th grade, more so like towards the end of elementary school. How long I've had this book? It's obviously seen some things. You see my name. That's when I used to capitalize my A's when I wrote my name. Don't know why, but that's why the cover page is torn off, and this page is also hanging on by a thread. I think it shows how much I love this book. And while I would never, ever harm or hurt or do anything to mess up my beautiful, beautiful books, as this one, it's been through some things. I didn't have like bookshelves back then to like carefully store my books, but this is a book that I know that I can go back to at any point of the year, at any time, and I'm just gonna enjoy it so much. My 8th book, last and certainly least, was The Next Wife. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet and cute, and I'm gonna be kind, I promise. Hate is a strong word. I dislike this book very much. I also read this in one sitting because it was kind of like, okay, it was moving a little fast, which love. And I was starting to see like where it was going, and I was getting like, ooh, like this is gonna be good. Thriller books are supposed to be thriller books. And I won't say that like I predicted what was gonna happen in there. I really didn't know. And that's kind of what kept me going and kept me reading, even though I was slowly but surely losing my interest in it. I couldn't fathom why these two women, and I won't even say they're fighting over this man, but they kind of were fighting over this man when they could have joined forces. Man, when you get two women scorned, the power they have, not only as two vessels, but when you put them together, glory. They could have been a force, and they could have done so much, and they lost it by becoming each other's enemies. Now, I can understand. For the first wife, Kate, like, I can understand why she didn't like Tish. You know, like, she kind of, in a way, like, seduced her husband. Husband left Kate and married Tish, the younger woman or whatever. I get it. I understand. I empathize with you, babe. I don't like him. I don't like her. I'm with you. But, and also, we're all seeing that, like, she's not doing a very good job of keeping man. So, obviously, like, they're in the ruts or whatever. You both have such power in your hands. And then this big company, it just launched or did whatever. Like, it's all this money and riches and stuff. And you guys literally could have made bank, and you didn't see the power. You didn't see the power of sisterhood. It was just fascinating, honestly. And I don't want to give any spoilers. I feel like for me to get like deeper into it and like really why I didn't like it, I kind of have to give like key parts, which I don't want to. If you want to read the book, by all means, experience it for yourself. Maybe you will find some appeal to it that I didn't find. But by the time I got to the end, and when that twist hit, I was like, this is the twist I was waiting for? Like, it wasn't like a swirly twist. It was like, this swirly twist has melted. It is not even a twist anymore. It's just milk. And I guess with this kind of concept, with The Next Wife, there's always going to be books like this. A lot of people use this plot as a form of like movies and books. We've all seen it. You know, these people are married. Here comes the other woman and things like that. You know, it's been done over and over again. Sometimes it's a hit. Sometimes it's a miss. I do like this sort of book because I'm kind of like, ooh, what's this person going to do in order to keep the life that they've had? You know, because I'm not gonna let this little floozy come in here and mess up the life that I've been building for myself, me and my husband. And if he think he about to get off scot-free, babe, you're mistaken. So I was rather excited, and I honestly thought that old dude was gonna have more of a part in it, but that didn't happen. That was not the case whatsoever. I even put in my review on Goodreads when I finished it, I was like, all of this for John? Man, I'm just saying, my biggest thing with this book is like the power these two women could have had if they had banded together. And like I said, they've both, well, really Tish caused more harm to Kate because it's like, you took my husband and then the father of my child. But it's like, if they had just banded together, wasted potential, honestly, in my opinion. All right, guys, those are all 8 of my reads last month. It was an experience, to say the least. You know, we had some hitters, we had some misses, and all I can say is that I overall enjoyed what I did read and had a good time reading as many books as I did. I feel like 8 books in 1 month is the most I've done in a while, if ever, honestly. Not that like I'm keeping track of how much I'm reading every month. That was probably the most I've read in 1 month. So I was really happy about that. February is here, and I didn't say it earlier, but happy Black History Month, guys. Happy Black People Month. I don't know about y'all, but I celebrate Blackness every month of the year. It's never ending, the love and the support that I have for my people. period. And with that being said, we read Black authors all year round. So my first book of this month is actually Drown Me with Dreams. I read the first book of this series last year, and I was able to find this one at the library. What were we expecting? I haven't bought a book. The last book I bought was Mirror Girls, guys. And I don't even think that was in January, because I started reading that on the 3rd. I'm pretty sure I bought it in December. So we're just not in the market for buying books anymore. But I am loving this book so far. It is kind of slow, just a little bit. We can see I think I'm 60% book, like 60% into the book or so now. And there's stuff happening, but it also feels like it's not much. But we did get a confession. We did get an L word, and I'm like, oh, L is for the way you look at me. Y'all didn't see it, but I just had like a whole little moment of excitement about this love word. But we did get a love confession, and I was super excited about that, because I'm just like, it's so obvious. And so like the way he said it, I was like, had me kind of giggling. I was like, ooh. Which brings me to my annoyance that I don't own this book, because I couldn't go tab in it. But regardless, I am super excited to finish it, and I have so many books. Guys, when I tell you they're piled up next to my bed, so many books to read this month, and I'm really excited. And just like that, we're at the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, I didn't mention this. I don't know if you guys noticed, the bookshelves have switched. These are actually on a completely different wall. With everything that was going on last year, I needed a change, and my room was my first victim of that change. So I took both my bookshelves and moved them over on the opposite wall of where they used to be, and kind of opened up the space where like my TV is and everything. It just makes my room, I feel like, a bit more spacious. I've really opened up the space more to add more books. Make sure you guys are following me on my social media at KAYLA Sierra. KAYLA is with 2 A's, Sierra is with 3, to stay up to date anytime I'm posting on here, or just on TikTok or on Instagram. If I'm posting, find out, know about it, be a part of the experience. I will be re-recording my Immortal Consequences book review after I've read it again, to give myself a fresh perspective on it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends. Ben, KAYLA Sierra, Baby Sonrike, Videoda, Yurishme, Yuzere, Gule Gule, which, if you didn't know, is Ivan KAYLA Sierra, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!